what America was and what it can become. This is Liberty Town Hall.
I'm Greg Marshall, he's Glenn Wilson, and you're watching Liberty Town Hall. Glenn, we have a pretty intense show today. Powerful stuff we're going to be talking about.
Extremely important. We need to understand that not all, quote, religions are benevolent and accepting of others. Some religions think it's okay to kill other people if they don't believe you're the same religion they are. So talking about these issues head on, I think, might bring some perspective back to America as to what values do we really want and what are we going to have acceptable. America has always been the most tolerant nation on the planet, so therefore we close our eyes to a lot of things and say, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, but yet evil's all around us. And we want to ignore the fact that the evil's there. And this show, we're not going to do that. We're going to address it head on.
Well, think about it. If we ignore evil, for a while, it keeps us from having to take action on it. But guess what happens when eventually it comes to our door? And that's what we're going to be looking at and trying to tear into. Today, we're going to be particularly talking about the Muslim religion with an old friend of the program, Dr. Gary Biggs is back with us again. I'm looking forward to a powerful conversation with him about the Muslim religion.
I'm excited about it. I think America really needs to understand that there is an enemy amongst us. And let's call it what it is. There's a concern that the way of life of, that America was founded on is going to be gone before we can live, or before we even know it. So, looking forward to this episode.
It's going to be a big one today. Stay tuned and we'll continue. This is Liberty Town Hall.
Are you a homeowner 62 or older and looking to cash out equity or even eliminate your mortgage payment? You can count on Reverse Rate for a low fixed rate and outstanding professional service. Call us now to turn your equity into tax-free income and lock in this great fixed rate. There are no income and no credit qualifications. You will have no monthly mortgage payments and you will still own your home. If you have mortgage payments that you would like to stop paying and you want to stay in your home, then call now to learn more. Our home equity conversion mortgage is a safe, government-insured program designed to help you get the cash you need and still own your home. You get a great low fixed rate, cash out equity, and eliminate your mortgage payment. There is never any payment required for as long as you live in your home.
Call 1-800-261-1972 while this government program's still available. 1-800-261-1972.
This is Liberty Town Hall. Right now I'm speaking to Dr. Gary Biggs, friend of the program, and also the pastor of Landmark Baptist Church in Petoskey, Michigan. He's also a radio talk show host. I appreciate him being back with us again. Liberty Town Hall, welcome back.
Good to be back.
Appreciate you being here today. Let's talk about something that has been in the news like no tomorrow, and that is the Muslim religion, Islam.
Aren't I supposed to be afraid to do that?
Some are, and I'm sure a lot of people are looking at it saying, are you sure you want to go through with this? I don't know, but here's the thing. We see a lot of it come down as far as reactionary actions. I mean, everything from the massive attacks of September 11th to some of the things that happened on the 11th anniversary and so forth that are now being more and more exposed to that it looks like it was a plot. John McCain said on some of the recent Sunday Talking Head programs that it was actually mentioned that who brings RPGs and rocket launchers to a protest over a film? You might bring Molotov cocktails on the high end, you might bring rocks, you may bring a gun. But that kind of weaponry, would you do that? I don't know.
Well, I thought when it happened that it wasn't just in relation to a film. Because it seemed too organized, too structured, too well planned to be a last-minute protest because somebody got upset and went outdoors and threw their fit. But nonetheless, Christianity is waning in America because we're afraid to speak our faith, and yet the world quakes when someone makes fun of Muhammad or Allah. And so they are not, by nature, a peace-loving people, as we're told and foisted upon us. Recently, I don't have all those with me to quote them from the surahs of the Quran, but I quoted several of those where, and the passages where they talk about the pagans, the unbelievers, and that Allah is the enemy of an unbeliever, and that the curse of Allah is upon them, and that we should be exterminated, and if we won't come in faith, then they have the right to treat us as cattle to butcher or use. All sorts of things that were there. I started our church service off, I quoted those directly from the Quran. And some people say, well, you looked all up on the internet. No, I have had 2 different copies, which by the way is interesting. I have 2 different copies of the Quran and they don't agree. And so they have their translational problems the same as anybody else. So
I mean, many translations, like we have of the Bible, they have the same kind of issues.
I know they have at least 2 because I have 2 copies. They're both called the Quran and they differ. They're not the exact same even when you look them up.
And
same
both are
references.
English speaking.
Yes, both are English translation, and so they differ. But in that, as I was doing research about it, people said, well, those particular passages have been quoted out of context. So I read them in context where they are, and they say, well, those verses, those statements are used for defense when they're defending themselves. They define defending themselves as if I say Allah is strange or weird, if I say anything or make a picture of Allah that disagrees with what they want, that's attack. And so they have the right then to practice Sharia. They can conquer us, they can kill us, they can do it, and that is the core of it. They are not peace. Now sad thing about it is they have apathetic people, same as Christians do, and so those are the ones that are portrayed as the peace-loving people that don't want to do it. But by and large, they believe their religion is the end, the way, and you either submit or they have the right to conquer you. And there is no other way to distill that.
Now, is it just a difference that some of them see the way of conquering as definite and active, and others see it as it will come on its own, or how does that work?
Well, when you have a statement, and I'm not trying to make an exact quote, a paraphrase here, I want to be careful to say that, the fact that the prophet has no authority until he has made great slaughter in the streets. What is slaughter?
Hard to argue what slaughter is.
Okay, and there's my point. It's that those are things that are made, and they're not all just necessarily defensive statements. They're made that way, and so what's happening is because they will violently oppose us, we cower. Like, they're going to attack the embassy. They're going to burn cities. They're going to do this and do that. All things. What needs to happen is, I don't believe that Christians need to go on the violent rampage, but we do need to become vocal. We need to speak up and say what we believe and act upon what we believe. We need to live our faith. I've said this for years. People live what they believe. If they don't live it, they don't believe it. For example, if I say it's wrong for me to steal, and I steal, I don't really believe it's wrong to steal. That goes back to something we talked about previously about the moral things. And so when our morals decay, then we're greatly eroded in our ability to do right, righteousness.
Dr. Biggs, in our last minute of this segment, do you believe that one of the reasons that a lot of, say, news organizations to leaders in communities don't speak up about some issues like you're talking about the Muslim faith is because they're afraid of reprisals?
Definitely. That and the fact that we're trying to be inclusive in all faiths and practices. When one faith says that the others should not exist, that's not a good thing to have. I believe that they're afraid of reprisals. I believe that they're afraid of money, connections that are made, power and position placement. So, yeah, I think a lot of it is fear.
Scary times we live in, no doubt about that.
Yes, sir.
But standing bold, you're saying, huh?
Yes, sir.
We'll talk more about that when we come back. My name is Greg Marshall. Thanks for watching Liberty Town Hall.
If you're one of the millions of Americans without dental insurance, ask yourself these 3 important questions. 1, does your company not offer dental insurance? 2, are you self-employed? 3, are you retired? If you answered yes to any of these, it's important that you call Encore Dental today. Encore Dental is real insurance, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You'll receive up to 100% coverage for preventive care and up to 50% on basic and major procedures. Encore Dental can help keep your teeth healthy, which may prevent infections that lead to heart disease and stroke. And with the high cost of procedures, it makes sense to have great coverage. Choose your level of benefits. There are no claim forms to fill out and no waiting for reimbursement. So go ahead, review it for 30 days.
Call 1-800-671-6134. Call now and save an additional 10%.
Call now and save an additional 10%.
This is Liberty Town Hall. Having a conversation and continuing with Dr. Gary Biggs. He is the pastor of Landmark Baptist Church in Petoskey, Michigan, and a radio talk show host. We're talking about the Muslim religion, and I'm talking about it from a political sense right now. There's a lot of people in politics who take the Muslim religion and talk about it. George W. Bush used to refer to it as a nation of peace and a religion of peace. And we hear similar comments like that from many different politicians. I don't know if it's appeasement or what, but something's going on there. I wanted to get your thought.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that politicians are looking for votes if they're trying to get in office, and so they don't want to offend a populace. Those that are in office want to keep oil, which is a different ideology for me anyway, since we have more than enough of our own that we want to be dependent. The idea that we are paying for that commodity that they have, we're enriching the sheikhs, we're enriching all those that want to empower themselves to overthrow us, and so it's like, here, take my knife and cut my throat. But what's happening, I believe, a great part of that is because they don't want to affect their vote, their popularity, their power, their position. So they are in fact practicing appeasement. We're trying to, if we can keep them happy, then they're not going to destroy our building. They're not going to vote us out. When you have cities that have segments that want to live totally and completely in Sharia rather than in the civil government that's been voted in place, that's wrong. The idea comes up, well, what about the judges in the states and cities that want to put laws in place to prevent Sharia law from being voted in? I believe with all my heart that is a good thing to do. We need to use our system of judgment, and I guess if you want to lump me as being bad, then so be it, but I believe this is America. If you come here, learn our laws, live in our society. We've walked away from the giant melting pot. We've become the huge salad bowl, and that's not going to work. If we want to meld together, I don't have a problem with somebody bringing their customs or traditions and remembering their heritage, but don't change our heritage to fit yours.
Talk to me about what a Sharia law. Not everybody knows what that is. What is Sharia?
Oh, just a quick example of Sharia law is that you can beat your wife. If she disobeys or dishonors you, you can beat your wife. And the law's there. Rape has to be witnessed by several people to actually say it's rape.
Well, that means there's hardly any rape charges then, really?
Ta-da.
Most of the time, rape, stop me if I'm wrong, is a personal crime, usually done behind closed doors or something like that.
Right, and the women are chattel, almost to the point of chattel property. They're owned or passed, and they have, I'm sure everybody's heard of the term honor killing. If a daughter or wife, someone dishonors their husband, doesn't do what they want, they can take their life, and that's all component parts of Sharia law. Basically, it's how does Allah want us to do it, and we're going to do it that way, and you don't have any say.
Who is Allah?
He is a fictitious substitute God.
That's a powerful statement. You'll be making some enemies just by saying that.
Well, if I did, I already have them. Because Muhammad was the prophet, and he wrote of Allah. But you see, when Satan fell from heaven as anointed cherub, one of the three, Michael, Gabriel, and Lucifer, and of the three archangels, Lucifer was the anointed cherub. He had the closest to human will and intellect of any creature at the time. When he fell, he said, I will be like the Most High God. So all the different religions, all the different things that come up with, they're imitating the Godhead. They're imitating God. And so this problem, and you can stem it all the way back to when Abraham was told by God that he'd be the father of many nations, and he and Sarah were to have a son. Well, they didn't have a son when they thought it'd be time, so Sarah sent her handmaiden Hagar into Abraham and said, here, count her as your wife. And they had a son named Ishmael. Well, Ishmael, God never acknowledged as Abraham's son. But the one that Abraham and Sarah had, Isaac, he did count him. And so there's been that battle from all the way back then to now, the two opposing sides directly. But much, if not all of it, goes back to when Satan was cast from heaven and said, I will be like the Most High God. So all the religions imitate God, and that's why Allah, the prophet, all the things that they teach and talk about are so very similar to Christianity. It's not that they got together and compared; it's one's imitating the other.
Where's this all headed to?
Hell?
Expand that just a hair if you wouldn't mind.
Well, what do you mean by where's it all headed to? The false
Well, I mean,
religion ends in hell.
where's the end result of what we're seeing right now? Is it a political? Is it a spiritual? Is it both?
I think it's combined both. If we don't have some degree of semblance, and I think the Constitution of the United States was based upon scriptural tenets. That's where the authority comes from. And so our rights are given by, our inalienable rights are granted by our Creator. And so as we violate His laws and move further and further from Him, we're headed closer and closer to the end. But the Bible told us that in the last days, intelligence would increase, there'd be wars and rumors of wars, there'd be all these things would happen. So I think we're seeing very close kin to what the Bible describes as the last days, the great and terrible day of the Lord. And that could in fact be an entire dissertation on its own. But because some people don't like the idea of talking about the rapture when God's going to come and take all of us out and we'll be gone and we have to accept Christ before that, or we are then hell. And so in hell, that's why I said it's headed to hell, because without Christ, the Bible says, Jesus said, no man coming to the Father but by me. And so if we try to go through any other door, we're hopeless and helpless. And our nation is headed that way.
Dr. Biggs, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
What's your website real quick?
LandmarkBaptist.com.
Sounds good. This is Liberty Town Hall.
Rose City Drug, your one-stop pharmacy, home health care, medical supplies, photo processing, and gift headquarters. The pharmacy department fills your prescriptions utilizing a state-of-the-art robotic system, lowering the time you wait with much higher accuracy, and your medication is never touched by human hands. The home health care and medical supplies department has a complete line of diabetic supplies and aids, including a full line of diabetic shoes. Rose City Drug, family-owned and operated for over 20 years, just south of the Rose City city limits, 2640 North M33.
Welcome back to Liberty Town Hall. Greg, that was an awesome discussion. The interview with Dr. Biggs really brought out a lot of concerns that I think a lot of us have that don't really take the time to address it.
Or are fearful of addressing it.
Or fearful of addressing it, right. Taking these issues head on has caused some people some grief in their lives, that's to say the least. But when we were talking off camera here, we were talking about the fact that it's not two religions of the Muslim religions, it's two different factions.
Or applications.
Or applications, where one side wants to force things to happen, let's say like Iran was, they want Israel wiped off the face of the earth.
And they want to force about the end of the age, which is what their belief structure is. And they're trying to force it to happen.
Yeah, they believe that if we can or if Israel's wiped off the map, then that will bring back their so-called Messiah that's going to make their lives great and give everybody 72 virgins, apparently. Maybe I get the details wrong, but they're actually looking forward to this Holocaust, in a sense. That's a concern. And then I've met other people of the Muslim religion that are very benign, peace-loving people. They really don't believe that violence should be a part of their religion. How do we know as Americans which is a good Muslim or which is a bad Muslim? Because a Muslim wants to kill me because I'm a Christian, well, I call that bad. So a Muslim that wants to wipe Israel off the map, I call that a problem. But here in America, we've become disconnected with this ongoing eternal battle between good and evil, apparently. We forgot the roots, and we seem to think that this war between the Muslims and the Judeo-Christian believing people, they think that's gone because we're here in America where it's nice and safe. So how do we address learning the difference of the two?
Well, certainly I think to start off with, by their fruits you shall know them, is probably the best way of looking at that. People who are going to push for violence is going to have violent type speech, is going to have an aggressive lifestyle and posture, and be pushing toward things that will enable such changes to happen in society easily. Where somebody who is not pushing for those kind of things, that's the first way to tell. Other ways, it becomes a lot more, it becomes a lot tougher. I mean, bottom line is, how do you tell an illegal alien from somebody who is here legally? It's not easy sometimes.
One of my friends from overseas managed to sneak some videos out somehow that actually instructs Muslims to infiltrate our society, from jobs at your local store downtown all the way up through the military and even into the White House. Go there, infiltrate, set back, be a good guy, and just wait for the right time, and then we'll let you know when you need to do something. So they're actually building in infiltration into our system so that they can do something at a later date. Now that's scary, because now you can't tell, this person here looks like he's doing fine. How do we know the difference?
You know, WorldNet Daily had a discussion on that. I forget what general was talking about that believes the Muslim Brotherhood is actually infiltrated into the Pentagon system, and they're not sure how deep, and they're not sure who everybody is. And that is scary in and of itself, but it goes along exactly what you're saying. There is infiltration going on. But we've had that in society before, and we've beaten it before. There was German infiltration.
But not to this level, Greg.
That's true. That's true. It doesn't mean it's too late, but it does mean we've got a big problem on our hands right now.
I think we need to take and open up our eyes a little bit more and look what happened with the major. I mean, right there on our own military base, an officer in our military had attacked his own troops, his own brothers in the service. So how do we know that that person's not going to want to attack us? That drives fear, and that's where the terrorism word actually comes from, is we're afraid because we don't know who or what to trust anymore.
I think we need to take one step back, Glenn, before that, and that is really take a look at how our government responds. Already the ambassador to Libya has been killed in recent days. We know that happened because he wrote in his diary, now it's coming out. The government's mad at CNN for sharing his diary information. But in the diary, he talked about concern for his own personal safety in his own life, and that the government wasn't reacting to some of the infiltration that was going on.
Well, we know we had 3 days warning on that. There was red alerts coming out of the area saying, hey, you're not safe right here, this is going to be a problem. And yet we didn't do anything about it.
And yet we didn't do anything about it. That's the key right there, is how many times does our government fall asleep until we finally say enough's enough and demand better change on that kind of thing? I mean, we're going to have to just scream and stomp our feet and demand that something happens here, that this just doesn't continue.
I went and watched the movie 2016, and I was looking at it from a very neutral, biased, or unbiased point of view, saying, okay, let's just look at the facts here, right? And when you look at the facts, they have you very concerned, because when you look at the global map, you can see this big power basin that will actually be larger than us. As far as, it's scary.
It is scary indeed. That's the kind of things we're going to continue to talk about and try to make a difference in, at least a piece at a time. Hope you'll be a part of it. Check us out at libertytownhall.com. My name is Greg Marshall. He's Glenn Wilson. This is Liberty Town Hall.
John Adams, in a speech to the military in 1798, warned his fellow countrymen, stating, "We have no government armed with power, capable of contending with human passions, unbridled by morality and religion. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." John Adams is a signer of the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and our second president.